We're back as if nothing ever changed. Thank you, everybody, for returning to the morning meeting. Sean, Dan, and I are grateful to you for sticking with us after a much deserved break for you, the great American two-way community and international. We're back and we're full slate of programs across the platform, including this one. If you're here on the two-way platform and you've got welling up inside of you questions, comments that you've been holding for half a fortnight, well, now's your chance. Please raise your hand if you'd like to be part of the conversation. If you're watching on X or YouTube, one policy change developed in committee and subcommittee action over the break, which is we now encourage smack in the chat. Please don't limit yourself. Attack Sean for killing children and Dan for electing a communist mayor, whatever you wish. Please, we encourage it. We're going for some reverse psychology. No, smack in the chat, peace, love, and understanding is still the way we do things around here, even after a week of reflection. Sean, what did you do during your break that you want to share?
I thought that the company retreat was in Jamaica. Apparently, I went to the island and it was in New York. I didn't realize that there were two. And so I just sat around waiting. And then Dan and I took a trip out to Martha's Vineyard and went shopping. And that was nice.
Yeah, there's still a two-way intern waiting for you at the number 7 train in Jamaica, Queens. Try to take you to the days in where we had a really nice conference. Dan, what did you do that you'd like to share?
My wife and I went down to lovely Miami. Had a great time. We had no kids and slept a lot and tan rested and ready.
All right. Again, grateful to you all for being part of the two-way.
Well, hold on. Yeah. There's a third person here.
Me?
Oh, you.
I mostly worked on helping build a two-way company, so spent a lot of time.
That's like meetings, a guilt
in meetings, trying to finish up the phase 1 of launching this as it's a great program we have here, but we also need a great business model.
I will say, just as a side note, I do love a good 4th of July. You know, it's aside, like we hosted a lot of people, but there's no presents, there's no gifts. It's just you get together because you want to enjoy company and have fun. And there's not as much stress as there is around other holidays. Now, maybe my wife thinks differently because she did all the work, but I will say that every once in a while having a holiday where you can just relax and it's not full of travel and stress and gift buying is so nice.
Well, let's be honest too. It's a great holiday for wearing flair. Like for those of us who love to, yeah.
Doug's right, by the way. The Bristol 4th of July parade, the oldest parade in the country, where the middle of the street is red, white, and blue. I see Doug there in the chat.
Dan, you're expert at math. Is it possible that in a country of however many hundreds of millions live here, that 150 million hot dogs are eaten on 4th of July? Doesn't seem right to me.
I don't know, but Joey Chestnut
gets low.
Close.
It's got to be low. 150 million. That's like everybody eats half a hot dog.
There's a lot of. I mean,
most people don't eat just one. So I mean,
understand.
I can see that. It's like a quarter of America.
There are what's the population of the United States now?
320.
320. Yeah. So basically, we'll round it down 300. Count out the vegetarians. Every other person eats one hot dog. I know some people.
There's a lot of like we had burgers and hot dogs. So
I'm skeptical. 150 million. All right, lots to discuss. Let's get to it. Bibi Netanyahu. You see the president's schedule today. He's got 4:00. He's got a closed event with signing executive orders that could easily open up, as we all know, and then 2 closed events with Bibi Netanyahu. I find it hard to believe he'll leave town without appearing in public, but we'll talk about that. Not much else going on. I don't know what the vice president's doing. The Senate's back tomorrow. The House is out for till the 14th. Gavin Newsom is pre-positioning in South Carolina for a 2-day tour there. A couple of court cases getting underway while we're on the air here live. Federal court in Boston is hearing a challenge to the administration's efforts to deport pro-Palestinian students and academics, and the DC Court of Appeals is hearing a case related to the USAID cuts. BRIC, bunch of American haters and pretend American allies, meets in Rio. All right, Bibi is here. Lots on the agenda. Great pieces in the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post and AP, kind of curtain raising this. And on the table, Iran aftermath, what to do about Gaza, probably first and foremost, and then possible Abraham Accords 3 and Bibi, possible big deal. Dennis Ross has an op-ed piece the Washington Post today saying Bibi told him, I don't know, 20 years ago, he wanted to do some big historic thing to change everything. So
I'd add trade on that. I think that, look, I still think that that's going to be a layup one for the president to get this week ahead of this July 9th deadline.
So, Sean, what would you be looking for today to come out of this? Right now, there's no press conference. There's nothing open press, but what are you looking for?
I think the level of agreement. So the president's going to make it clear to Netanyahu, I want no more fighting. I want to deal with Iran. I want you to cut this deal with Hamas. And how much does Netanyahu agree with that posture? Because I think he's going to say, well, Mr. President, we have the, we appreciate everything you've done for us, but we want to be able to go it alone. The president wants a unified message to both Hamas and to Iran on separate fronts. And I think the question is, does Bibi hew that message, that narrative, or does he try to create some daylight between the two?
Dan, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I agree. What is Bibi's end game in Iran and in Gaza, and then whether there's some big deal? Because the last two times Bibi's come to Washington, there's been massive military action within a week or two of him being here. So I think Trump, to Sean's point, wants deals. He wants to kind of the funnel to start narrowing on peace. And the question is, does Bibi share that point of view, or does he have more that he wants to accomplish in both Gaza and Iran?
I think we know he wants more. I mean, that's right. He wants to be able to lean in. And I would say going into this meeting, his goal is to say, Mr. President, I can kind of do this on my own. I think the question is, does he agree? Does he buy into Trump saying no mas, or does he? That's, to me, we know that they don't agree on the strategy. The question is, does Netanyahu convince Trump that I need a little daylight here, or does Trump get him to say, knock it off?
Probably a good sign, in my view, that there's nothing public, at least not as of now. It means they're trying to actually get stuff done. And
I think that's just the right to have a public event. I mean, that's almost the default now. Is let's just say it's closed until it's not. Bibi Netanyahu couldn't come to the United States and not have a presser of some sort.
And Trump can't have him come and not have a presser.
Right. I was going to say, between the two of them, I mean, you might as well change it right now on the schedule.
I understand. I'm just saying not announced in advance to me is a good sign, because it means
no, I get it. I just
semi-focused on work. All right. Tariffs. Sleight of hand from Scott Bessent and the other spokespeople yesterday, pretending they didn't change the deadline when they did. The deadline was supposed to be Wednesday. It's now August 1st. Here is Scott Bessent with some of the Trump-Bessent patented creative chaos, confusion with strategic purpose on Squawk Box 103, please.
Yeah, we are going to have several announcements in the next 48 hours. And, Joe, I think what President Trump is concerned about is the quality of the deals, not the quantity. As you could imagine, as he started herding the cats and trying to get everyone across the finish line, when he said that there's a chance that countries could boomerang back to their April 2nd reciprocal tariff levels, we've had a lot of people change their tune in terms of negotiations. So my mailbox was full last night with a lot of new offers, a lot of new proposals. So it's going to be a busy couple of days. But importantly, too, that President Trump has said that the countries would not go back to the reciprocal rate until August 1st.
So there's a lot going on. The markets clearly now get the joke. They're not afraid of this strategic ambiguity. The president said that anybody who deals with the BRIC countries is going to get a higher tariff. The Japan deal is kind of up in the air. The EU thing is very up in the air. The EU has now said they've cut their Beijing trip in half. So 50% of it, their China trip's in half. So 50% of it's canceled, but it's still scheduled for the end of the week. And of course, any deals that are announced between now and August 3rd, whether they're announced before Wednesday or not, are just phony. They're just placeholders. They're just the beginning of real negotiations. But that's enough for the markets and enough for the president. So, Dan, what would you expect to happen in the next week on tariffs?
I think they're probably going to announce one or two what I'll call bigger deals that are these framework agreements. I mean, I think it was interesting with Vietnam. He announced a deal and the Vietnamese said, actually, there isn't a deal yet. Like Trump just kind of, put it out there and tried to move on. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, the issue is he is likely to get something or some things for the United States. And I think he'll then try to just declare victory. And of course, the trap is if you belittle it, then, you know, to those who are going to benefit, they say WTF. I mean, this is like the first NAFTA deal he did when Democrats got in the trap of saying it's a nothing burger. And a lot of, you know, blue collar workers said, no, it's not. So I'll be curious, you know, how much there is there and what the timeline for actually getting something done is.
John.
So the biggest thing that I think needs to get understood, in my opinion, is the bandwidth problem. USTR, I don't think has, there's technically 3 deputies at USTR. 2 of them actually are on the deal front. And they're not confirmed. Commerce, I don't think has a single undersecretary. And so I say all that because they're trying to get these things done, and a lot of the countries are leaning into, you know, being favorable to getting something done. I noted this before we went on break. The Vietnam trade team was sitting in a hotel in DC for over a week, just saying, "We're ready. Tell us when you have time." Greer and those guys were traveling overseas, and so the biggest issue that's facing the trade team writ large, not just, but you have your principals, Bassett, Lutnick, and then Greer. But then there's usually a team below that that's doing, you know, the deputies that is doing a lot of the legwork. It just doesn't exist. So it means the principals are doing a lot more, and they don't have the bandwidth, especially when they're traveling and they're taking their teams with us. So that's number one. Number two is, I think you're right. There's going to be a series of framework that's announced. And the way that Bassett in particular has framed this, and the president's mentioned it yesterday on the tarmac, is it's going to be, hey, if you're trying to work with us, we're going to punt. We'll give you an extension, 90 days or whatever, because we don't want to. But and the thing that's interesting to me, the way the president framed this is, I'm still not aware of a country that is sticking their finger in our eye and saying we're not willing to deal. Now, they may not ultimately want to get to a deal. That's a whole separate discussion. But to me, the way I see this thing playing out is they're going to announce that they've got all these guys, and probably, as I've said before, I think the EU is close. There's some sticking issues on some really sort of technical things. I still think Canada and Israel are top of my queue. And then that gets them going on like 7 deals. And then you're going to announce a series of countries that you've at least established a framework for a framework. So it's actually even less than what we've seen, but to say that we're in decent discussion. So that's how I see this thing playing out over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and of course, we've learned the markets are fine with this. Bessett's got this new talking point that we have all the leverage because they trade more with us and they need our market, and they're leveraging the U.S. market, the U.S. consumer. And really, it's all about China and whether we're going to have a Xi summit or not. There was talk while we were gone of the president touring China with a business group the way he did in the Middle East. That's all up for grabs. But for the time being, there's no deadline. I don't care what.
Well, but I also want to just drive home the point. The markets firmly believe in taco. I mean, we need to be clear about they
believe it. But Dan, I think they believe 2 things. They believe in taco, but they also believe that these deals on the president's terms, with a change from what used to be the case, which is the goal is 0 tariffs, to a world where the U.S. has a tariff imposed on all these countries. The market seems to have priced that in as well.
They also believe there'll be reciprocal tariffs. I mean, that is true, but they believe that there'll be small tariffs that'll be in place. And correct, they priced that in.
Maybe, but whatever it is, that's different than it was 6 months ago when they were saying Besant was destroying the economy.
Well, I would just say the one thing that's important to understand about the White House's view, and I say the White House writ large, is they feel emboldened right now. Sure. After the last couple of weeks, the idea, like, I think that throwing the phrase taco around after the wins that the guys had is pretty silly. I mean, I'm not saying that to you, Dan. I'm just saying that, like, he has shown that he delivers, and both, you know, in terms of foreign policy and then domestic policy, getting the ball over the finish line. So I think there's a bit of people have to realize that he's not kidding around. You screw with him right now, he almost is looking for somebody to screw with.
Well, the only thing is he admitted we got the yips on trade. That was his phrase. So we need to just, calm down on that front.
Because they hadn't conditioned the markets yet. We're in a different place now.
Well, but Mark, we're in a different place because he dramatically cut the tariffs down. Like, he didn't keep it in place, massage the markets, and keep going. He backed off completely brought everything down, and then hovered there. And that's where we've been.
Well, okay. We got so many more topics. I'll move on. The tragedy in Texas, I think we all will agree, we haven't discussed it, but I think we all would agree that politicizing it is a horrible thing. I think we'd all agree there's no evidence as of yet that the administration's cuts or restraints in growth or layoffs led to this. It seems like the locals chose not to have a system in place. And that's the reason for this. So besides all of us expressing our just as parents and as human beings, just how heartsick we are about what happened and the loss of life. Dan, you both know about intergovernmental affairs. Is this just a local problem, or should the state and the federal government now step in and say, you guys aren't doing it, so it needs to be done?
Well, I think first I do want to say what you said earlier, which is there is no evidence that cuts to the National Weather Service at NOAA impacted this. It sounds like they did. They were appropriately staffed at the time. They gave appropriate warnings. And as you said, local officials had decided, because of the cost, of not putting in kind of sensors and other things that might give some sort of a detection when something like this happens incredibly fast. I think the water rose 20 feet in like 60 minutes or something like that. Look, this is the age-old question, which is how much does the federal government overrule states? In places like Texas, the history is, don't tell us what to do. So it is a local issue. It's tragic. In the ideal world, there'd be enough money for every town to have every advanced warning system humanly possible to prevent tragedies, but we know that's not the case. But I think one thing this does show is, with all the cuts that happened in DOGE, we talked about this at the time. We all feared that someday something may happen where people will point to it. That was not the case here, but it does show you as we go on the next 36 months, let's hope it doesn't happen.
A couple things. On a personal level, what was so interesting to me about this tragedy was that in the case of most disasters or tragedies, when they occur, they're somewhat removed, and in the sense that you think about the plane that crashed in DC January, I guess. There was no personal connection. I can't tell you the number of people that is a one-off to what happened in Texas. Not just, I know August Pfluger, the congressman from Texas, his daughters were there, Buddy Carter's granddaughters. But like personal people that are connected to my family that were involved in that. I was blown away when I first saw it. And then within the next 24 hours, family members saying, you remember so-and-so, their daughter was there, so-and-so there. I can't think of a tragedy of this scale that I've been more personally connected to from family and friendly neighborhood connections in ever. And it was mind blowing just to think you send your kid to a camp, or someone down there, and you just, as a parent, you probably worry every day your kid's at college or at camp or something like that, but those are not the kind of things you think about. I think about accidents and things, and it was mind blowing just to think about how that went down. To your question, number one, you're right. There's no evidence that this has anything to do with cuts. You do know that there was some discussion at the county council about measures. And to me, this is the broader discussion when I thought about this in advance of today's thing. We have discussions all the time. The issue that I mentioned in DC, you have an aged air traffic control system. It costs a lot of money to repair that, and a lot of that was addressed in the reconciliation bill. The weather service, vastly outdated. There's a point at which when we look around, whether it's a local issue or a state issue or a federal issue, we all know that there are certain problems that exist. We have this problem right now in the military. No one wants to talk about it. How depleted our munitions stockpile is because of what we've done in Ukraine. And yet No one really wants to have the discussion, but if we were attacked, we'd say, why didn't we have this discussion? Why didn't we fund things? The strategic petroleum reserve was tapped under Biden. No one wants to talk about it. And again, what this shows is sometimes the easy answer is just to push aside problems. And in this county, they were having these discussions about how much it would cost to put a radar system in, and it was, oh, that's way too much money, and we don't want to do it. Now it seems silly that it didn't happen. And I think the next time these issues come up in terms of preventing things, it's worthy of debate. The easy answer for politicians is to say no or to kick the can down the road. And we now see the consequences of those decision makings. But it is largely a local issue, and I feel bad for everything that's going on down there.
Sean, one more thing quickly for you. We got a lot to get through. Again, raise your hand if you want in the conversation. We know, as if we didn't know it before, that every time now there's a tragedy in America, the media and the Democrats will say it's the fault of Doge. What do you think the White House, or what do you know the White House is doing about that? Are they just going to fight them all out tactically, case by case? Or are they going to actually analyze whether any of the cuts they've made might make things more dangerous?
So I think there's going to be a short-term response, and you saw that there's a little bit of caution in both Kristi Noem's comments and Donald Trump's about how to address FEMA in particular, and just saying, we'll have to review some of this stuff. Again, I thought it was rather what Chuck Schumer did was pretty it was over the top. The idea that somehow when you're writing a letter to the IG at the Commerce Department, who isn't going to get back to you, and you push it out, it was completely a stunt to garner attention in the midst of a massive tragedy. He knows the answer to the question, and he did it.
I'm not agreeing. So but I'm saying going forward, do you think
I think the short-term answer is they're going to say, look, here's the analysis. I mean, and you've seen
not on this case. If there's a plane crash, they're going to say the cuts to the FAA. If there's a measles outbreak, they're going to say cuts at HHS. Is the White House, do you think, rather than just having people gear up on Twitter to own the libs, or do you think that they're taking stock of serious analysis to say, we believe in smaller government, we believe government got too big, we believe in reducing the federal workforce, but we're responsible for making sure that public health and safety are still protected?
So I think it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. So if you look at ATC, right, they took appropriate steps. Sean Duffy, I think, has done a phenomenal job of explaining the problem that exists within air travel right now and the steps and the remedies that they're taking. So if something were to happen in that space, I think that they're pretty protected in terms of saying, we identified a problem that existed for decades. We took appropriate steps. We explained that it wasn't going to happen overnight, et cetera. In the area of FEMA, I do think that they've got to be, this is where, as we get into hurricane season in the fall, they're going to have to get ahead of, here's what we've done, here's what we did. But Kristi Noem this morning in some of the interviews was saying, we think this is the better model, that the state emergency management be the first. We come in, declare, with a disaster declaration, then we move some additional assets, but the state leads the way. I think in key states, in Florida, that's going to be fine because Ron DeSantis has done a phenomenal job of getting the state ready. Texas seems pretty adept at that. Certain states, though, that this is a big deal. There's a big difference between how states prepare themselves. And so if you find a state that isn't up to that level and something happens, there's going to be a massive finger pointing exercise as to who should have been the lead on that. And the state saying, well, FEMA's always had the lead. We weren't ready for this. That's their job.
Right.
And then to your point, the media is going to weigh in and say the Trump administration should have done X, Y, and Z.
So Dan, leaving aside this tragedy, just the general question of what we're facing for the next 3 years, which is every time there's a public health, safety, air traffic, anything, the press and the Democrats are going to say it's Trump's fault because of Doge. How should the Democrats do that? Should they do it as superficially as Schumer just firing off a letter? Should they have really great research? Should they have whistleblowers? What's the right way for them to do it substantively and politically?
Well, I wish we wouldn't blame everything on it because you become the boy who cries wolf and the public just starts to tune you out. I think Sean talked about FEMA. I think the other place that there are more and more stories about problems is the VA. Like, I think it's real. I think that the DTROP and DSCC are actually going to start recruiting veterans and others to run for office to make this part of their platform in 2026. But I think you got to get your facts right first. I know what Democrats say, because I saw it over the weekend, which is that Donald Trump for years would just fire these things off. He'd make these kind of allegations and conspiracy theories. They would take off. It would ding us. It would draw blood, even though the facts didn't back it up whatsoever. And there's this like, what's good for the goose is good for us type of argument. I think it's crazy. It's one of the reasons people don't like Trump. But the party right now, the tail wags the dog. The base just demands scream.
All right. For the next several topics, gentlemen, it's one word or one sentence answers. We speed through. Will Elon Musk start a meaningful third party?
Meaningful. I don't know. I think the question is, what is he going to try to do? Is he going to try to target red districts, blue districts, or purple districts? And can he get ballot access and recruit candidates?
Will he start a meaningful third party, Dan?
I'll help you.
No. Yes.
No.
If he targets 4 races, yes.
Who's going to work for him?
Exactly.
Oh, Sean.
All the people who are qualified to work for him belong to a tribe.
I don't know about that anymore.
Almost all, not all.
Yeah, okay. Dude. Listen. I'm going to tell you this right now. If you are a professional, and actually know are you going to take the short, like the express train, because that has one stop? And when Elon changes his mind in 6 months and says, "Okay, I guess I'm not doing this anymore," and then you're persona non grata everywhere, you better hope that you are ready to retire from politics, because you're not playing again.
I don't know on the Democratic side if that's true.
It's equally true on the Democratic side.
Mark, I disagree, because the way I think people view Musk is he's only going to hurt Republicans. So if he can create a coalition government where I got some text from people.
Okay, so let me just play this out for a second. In all seriousness,
the Democratic side,
you're a Democrat, Dan. Your bona fides are impeccable on the Dem side. So he calls you up and says, "Hey, I'm doing this, but I'm going to try to reach out to some big donors on the left. Would you help me? I'll pay you $1 million to help with this effort. Do you take the gig?"
I don't, because I'm not in it anymore, but I know people who would.
You really? I have a hard time thinking somebody says.
I agree with Sean. All right.
Did
Sean,
Michael Bloomberg have a problem getting talent?
Different thing. Mostly.
Oh, you're right. He has 1/5 the money of Elon Musk.
Well, okay. Also, he didn't have a great deal of success.
Doesn't matter. You asked.
And look at
meaningful. I said meaningful.
Name somebody who worked. Hold on. And I'm asking this in all seriousness, because I don't know. Name somebody that worked for Bloomberg that has done well since.
Oh God, there's lots of people who went on. Some people went to the Biden campaign. Like people moved on. Our party does not play hardball the way Trump does.
Bloomberg's not as decisive, as divisive as Trump was, as Musk is. Okay.
He was at the time.
Okay. Again, raise your hand if you wanted in the conversation. He really wasn't. I don't believe. Sean, one word answer. Will Donald Trump move against Putin in light of their call that seemed to frustrate Trump? Will he move against Putin with sanctions or more military aid? Will he move against Putin?
I want to say yes, but I'm not there yet.
Okay. Dan?
Nope.
Okay. Lots going on in the New York City mayoral race. We won't get into all the details, but Dan, percent chance that Mr. Mamdani is the next mayor of New York City. You were at 60, I believe, last week.
55.
So lower, 55. Sean.
What did I say last time? 70?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm still at 70.
Okay. Dan, fill out the other 45, please.
Question is, can the business community get two out to rally behind one? That's it.
But who's filling the other 45%?
The other
Adams.
The three people, Cuomo, Adams, and
a portion.
I'd say 55% of the electorate doesn't want to vote for Mamdani. The question is it three other candidates?
But I'm
then he'll win.
But I'm asking you who the human beings are who fill out the other 45%.
Oh, I mean, I'm not sure what you're saying. Like,
what percent chance is Adams if Mamdani is 55? Is Adams the remaining 45?
Sure, all three of them are. I think anyone with a pulse would be the other one.
You're not answering my question.
Hold on, but I want to know where the
I'm not sure
5%.
what you're asking.
Hold on.
I'm asking.
I want to know where the 5% went.
I'm asking. There's 100. If you take all the people on who are eligible to be New York City mayor,
Yeah.
There's one of them will be mayor. So you're saying that there's a 55% that the Democratic nominee will be mayor.
Correct.
I'm saying of the remaining 45%, how do you apportion that to the other people who might be mayor, to actual human beings? Is it just Adams is the only one who can beat him?
No, I think Adams or Cuomo, if they can get the others to all drop out. And then I actually think Mandani's around 46%. I think 55% in New York is not there. The problem is it could just be too fractured and he might win with 45% of the vote.
All right. Yesterday, according to Axios, the head of the FBI and the deputy director of the FBI both said two things about Jeffrey Epstein. He committed suicide, something they both previously had expressed skepticism about, and that there is no client list. Okay, this is causing quite a bit of controversy in some quarters, including because here's the attorney general, the boss of the two FBI officials, speaking about a client list. Number 108, please.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check.
Sean, is there a client list or not?
The thing that was weird to me about the statement yesterday is I always thought that there was I thought it was like accepted that there was a client list. Like I'm not by any means the Epstein expert on this panel right now. Maybe I am. I don't know what Dan comes down to this, but I have not watched or paid as close of attention as some do. That being said, I've always assumed by the way that Pam mentioned that like that was just an accepted thing, that everybody knew he had a client list and that wasn't even debatable. So I'm intrigued that suddenly there isn't one.
Dan, Tempest in a Teapot, or the biggest cover-up and controversy and conspiracy of all time?
I do believe that there's a cover-up because from everything you read, Epstein kept meticulous records because he leveraged these people to profit off them. So I can't imagine he did not have detailed records of who his clients were.
But the thing that I don't get, here's what I don't understand. Let's just say hypothetically that that's the line. There isn't a list. If there's a list, which I got to think that there is, there's not like 4 people that saw it and you just go, all right, guys, we're all going to say there's not a list. There's a lot of people who've seen this list, and in the next 24 or 48 hours, someone's going to say, I saw it.
Yeah,
I'm the one who put it on her desk.
The attorney general already said.
Yeah.
Also, that guy did not commit suicide, by the way. All right. Lastly,
is that reporting or speculation?
It's knowledge of humanity. Lastly, there's the invisible primary for the Democrats who want to be the nominee in 28 now revolves around who can express the greatest opposition to the reconciliation bill that passed with Republican votes. Governor Beshear did an interview with New York Magazine over the weekend, published saying he might run for president, and he focused on his opposition and talking about rural hospitals and hunger, etc. Here is Dan's former boss, Colorado Governor Jared Polis, in a video expressing in his own unique style his opposition to the reconciliation bill. So cringe was a word many people used. I see it in the chat as I glance at the chat. I still don't read it. On Twitter over the weekend, Dan defended his boss, saying this is authentic. I chimed in and said, you can be both authentic and well produced. And that was crappily produced. So Dan, here's my question for you about Jared Polis. Like, that's embarrassingly produced. Does he not have professionals around him who can produce professional videos, or did he do that with a teenage neighbor and an iPhone?
I'm sure it was just one of his staffers. Look, we're talking about it. So mission accomplished. It broke through. No, it broke through. On the left, people thought like, great. And on the right, you're all mocking them. Okay, great.
Well, I'm not mocking him from the right. I'm mocking him as someone who's been a television producer.
Yeah, no, but I think, look, that is Jared. I mean, that to me, and obviously I know him, I worked for him, I was his chief of staff. It's quirky, his dress, wearing his polo with the suit, which is, I chatted with him for a whole year about that one. I think that he will also, because Colorado has a lot of rural hospitals, I think it's an opportunity for him to step forward. I think the piece in Politico was, well timed on this front too. I don't know if Jared will be the nominee. He's got, strengths and he's got weaknesses, but that is Jared. Like he would see that as a great video.
That's a problem.
I agree.
Look, when you saw the stuff that Mondami did in New York,
yep.
Again, there's a difference. I respect the game, right? So I can look at someone on the far left and say, hey, I think they're nuts or their policies are crazy, but good tactics, right? Yep. And I'm willing to do that. That to me is literally the definition of what the kids call cringe. It was like the idea that someone looks at that and says, yeah, put that out is a problem. They think, hey, that represents the best of me.
See, I disagree with that. I mean, but you got to be yourself. We talk about these candidates that are stilted.
But Dan, give me 20 minutes with the raw tape and I can make a better video than that with him still being himself.
I get it, but I think these things like spur of the moment, kind of like poor filming, that there is something about it. Again, we're talking about it. It got circulated on the internet. Goal number one.
That's right. There's a difference though when you're talking about how bad something is.
But
that's
only on the right. See, that's the difference.
On Dan. Not Sean is telling you he's not speaking from the right. Sean is speaking from the pro level of.
I'm not even talking about the message.
Whoa! The Beltway class. Okay, great. And no one cares what they think.
Dan, if you want me to convene a focus group in Green Bay and show that to people and ask them what they think of it, I will.
You know what, Mark? I would ask you, if you convened a focus group and put 15 candidates and what they said on the big, beautiful bill, how many would have seen that versus anything the others said?
But in that video, I didn't see anything that he said because I was distracted. Here's the point, though. If he just sat there at his desk and said, hey, I'm Jared Polis, I'm the governor of Colorado. I got to be honest with you. I wake up every day doing this, this, and this.
That's so lame. That's
fine,
so
but you know what? I didn't see a word that it's like one of those ads.
Doesn't matter.
When you see an ad, and at the end of the ad, you have to wonder, what's the product? What are they pushing? What am I being asked to buy? What's the call to action? And in that video,
Trump
I was so distracted by how cringy it was.
When Trump's in a McDonald's in a suit, okay, the message was, right, fast food, right? I get it.
Dan, Donald Trump is the best television producer ever to be president of the United States. I don't think you want to start challenging his bona fides on how to make good videos.
He broke through. Well, you have
to establish your bona fides on making good videos. And that video was badly produced.
I think the average American doesn't look at it from a TV producer standpoint. Again, we're talking about it. If what we're arguing is over quality of production 4 years out, fine. If I'm Jared, I take it.
Professor Kenneth, settle this, please.
That video was a joke.
Professor, welcome in. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your support for Two Way, and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. And thanks for coming back. I hope you guys had a great vacation. We missed you. So I wanted to bring up.
Who are we looking at?
Who is that?
What is behind me?
Yeah, that's you and your wife.
That's
right?
me and my beautiful Jacqueline.
Wow.
The blonde and the professor. Everybody, please sign up to our YouTube channel, The Blonde and the Professor. Anyway, after that cheap plug, I wanted to talk about messaging again. That's one of the things I always harp on with the big, bad, beautiful bill. I call it the 4 Bs. With that being passed, Sean and Dan, I'm reading now that I think the door is now open for Democrats to try and get some kind of message because of this bill. So, and I've also been reading that, we know all politics is local. So I've been reading that the Dems are trying to recruit a lot more military veterans for their campaigns. So what I'd like to know, Sean, is Trump really going to spend his political capital on these midterms when they come up And because I saw your chart, Sean, about the increase in voter registration on the Republican side. So I'm just, I'm all about these midterms because everything can change. And is Trump really willing to go out there and spend political capital to kind of hold the line or increase what's going on? And then obviously to you, Dan, do you think there's an opening now for the Dems to kind of make their move, especially locally in local politics? Or do you think like a Zoran the Destroyer is going to hurt the Democratic Party?
So I'll go first. Here's what I'll tell you. What you're first of all on the stat, that came from Seth Keshel, who was on the show a couple times with me. 29 of the 30 states that track voter registration by party ID all moved to the right, every single one of them. And the only other one at the time that he did the chart is New Jersey, and it just hadn't reported the data yet. So I think at some point we'll have 30 out of 30. I've had conversations with some pretty senior folks in the White House about this, and I will tell you that President Trump is fully aware of the importance of maintaining a Republican House and Senate for not just it's more not just the offensive nature, right? You've got the Senate, which is the nominations and keeping the trains on track, et cetera. And I think we're pretty good on that. But they understand that if the House flips, it turns into investigation, impeachment, et cetera. They are willing to spend a lot more money. They realize that it makes a lot more sense to spend political money on the midterms than legal defense money on lawyers. And that's what, so he has seen the movie from the first term, and I think they're going to do it. I do fully believe that this big, beautiful bill is going to, as well as the voter registration numbers in the landscape itself, that I firmly believe that House Republicans will maintain the House. They are well aware of the situation, paying enough attention to the at-risk incumbents, going on offense in several districts. So, but the broader question that you're asking, Professor, they are 100% focused on maintaining the majorities.
Yeah, I agree with Sean. I think that this is the most politically engaged White House going into a midterm, probably in my lifetime, in terms of the amount of cash they have and everybody from the top down being 100% invested for the reason Sean gave. I also think, talking to somebody with Senate finance discussions recently, that some of those cuts will never see the light of day. I think Republicans will keep delaying them and delaying them and delaying them because they know the potency of it. I think the issue is whether or not they can publicly come out and say they're not going to happen, because hospitals next year will have to start planning their budgets. And I think you will start seeing so-and-so hospital will close. Democrats are not just going to recruit military veterans. They're trying to recruit healthcare professionals who can talk about this authentically from their community. I would like to think I feel good about Democrats taking the House back, but we have so many problems that we need to kind of get control of. But we have a chance thanks to this bill, I think.
Mark, can I just push the two-way picnic real quick?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So just let everybody know, Haley Voda, who you always see on here, and Deborah Knox and myself are hosting a two-way picnic on August 9th in Central Park. It's a Saturday. And we also have an alternative place if it gets too hot. Just wanted to push that. Reach out to Deborah Knox or myself or Haley Voda. Thanks, guys.
We'll be heavily promoting the picnic as soon as our lawyers sign off on it. Professor, thank you. Grateful to you. Carly, welcome, and tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind, please.
I'm still in nautical mode, and I saw you, Mark, on a boat near Block Island, so you can't say that you were working.
I haven't been on a boat all summer.
It's a joke.
Okay.
So, I was going to say, if you got to Block Island, that's
nice.
No, I'm still on vacation for the holiday. Talking about Netanyahu's visit, my question is, why is it that the media continues to speak of all the wrong things that Israel is doing, but they don't speak about the hostages? They don't speak about what happens with the aid. They don't speak about the food that gets stolen. It's mind-boggling for me. And speaking about, the Israelis, the Jews, the situation with the universities, I read in the Wall Street Journal that Columbia University is in talks with the presidency about what's going to happen. And then they had last week that the president or the interim president had all this horrible text that went public. Why is the media not speaking about any of this? What is the problem? If you guys can enlighten me.
What's the problem with the
media doesn't talk about all the suffering in Israel. They don't talk about what is happening in Hamas, with the hostages that Hamas still holding.
I think the media does talk about, well, first off, we don't fully know, but as hostages have been released, they have talked about what their what it was like to be held. I think there's been a lot of talk about what's happening in Gaza. There's been a lot of talk about what has been happening in Israel. I think I'm not aware of that stuff not being covered. The question is, what do you do about all of it?
I just think it's not covered enough.
Sean.
Look, I think there's two things. One, on issues that people care about. So, you always hope that there's more coverage, and sometimes there's not. On this particular issue, I think a couple things. One, there's a bit of bias that comes into all of the reporting. Number two, I think a lot of them, it's one of those, foreign policy is always a tougher issue for people to get excited about, or to newsrooms to dedicate people to. So, I mean, there's a bunch of factors that are playing into this. And then obviously you have a lot of just where those newsrooms are. This is one issue that Mark probably is more of an expert from a media corporate standpoint, but considering some of the personal views of I'm intrigued by this issue that I would have assumed it would be much more pro-Israel. And I know some people are going to say, well, it is pro-Israel. Knowing some of the people that are at the highest ranks of these networks and the anchors themselves, I would have assumed that they would be much more into this story, and they're not. And it's always fascinated me.
Thank you, Carly. Appreciate it. Shamshul, welcome in. Tell folks where you are in Malaysia, as specifically as you will, and what's on your mind.
Hi, Mark, Dan, Sean. I'm calling from Kuala Lumpur. First, I want to say I felt great when the House passed the big, beautiful bill. To give perspective, I've been running oil and gas business the last 30 plus years, covering Southeast Asia, Middle East, and I have business relationships in US. In fact, going to be in Texas, maybe August. I disagree with Elon. Just like any business, the country can run with its current cash flow, projected growth, tackle the deficit, even after the midterms. I actually wanted to talk about China, but this Iran thing bothers me. And I have a question for you guys. Someone from a Muslim background, I see things that most people from my side would never say. You cannot negotiate with religious extremism and political Islam is that. An Iranian regime is an existential global threat to the economy and safety that affects America, Americans, and the world. I think the Israelis understand this. I don't think MAGA does. So that brings me back to Iran and all the other influences of destabilization due to political Islam. The nuclear capacity is only a means to an end to the Mullah regime. My question is this. Whilst I applaud the short-term win of stopping a nuclear Iran, political Islam or Islamism will keep on rising and be a threat for global trade and growth. So unless there is policy of containment, do you think the Trump administration recognizes this issue? Because I don't see a clear strategy in managing this. Is there, and if so, what is?
Great question. Sean.
I'll push to Dan first because I'm still trying to. Or can you just synthesize? Like, are you saying what exactly are you asking?
Does the administration understand that trying to negotiate with this regime is doomed to fail because they're?
Yeah. Thank you. The answer is you've heard. I know you've been on watching a long time. I firmly believe that there's no good deal that can come of this, right? They are not a people or a regime that can be trusted. So I understand President Trump. He is just the consummate deal maker. He thinks he firmly believes, and with everything in his fiber, that he can get a deal with anybody. That's just who he is. It's in his id. Tell me the problem. Let me fix it. That's who the guy is. He's a fixer. I just don't think that these people, yes, you can reach a deal. I don't think you can ever trust them. That's my point with the Iranians. And so I think there are definitely some around him that share that view. And then there are some who believe that we've shown them the might of the U.S. military, and they'll take us seriously. So I think it's a great question. I think there's a debate within the administration about this at the highest levels. I am not a person who believes that that they can ever be trusted. So whatever deal that you come up with them won't matter.
Dan.
I think the administration, and I think both parties do realize what you're talking about. I think the challenge is you're really talking about regime change. And that's the problem. Nobody wants to be and I think even the Israelis, I'd be very curious, if we could pour truth serum to Bibi Netanyahu, like, what is the end game? I mean, the Ayatollah reemerged over the weekend. He's now, twice spoken publicly. We don't know, what's going on. And of course, they're not the only regime in that neighborhood that we've got worries about. So, George W. Bush spent a lot of time trying to separate the religion from the leadership, from the political leadership, and trying to split that, apart. It's hard.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. Enjoy Houston in August. Lance, welcome in. Unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are.
Hey, welcome back, Lance.
Hello,
Mr. Spicer. Hello, Mr. Turrentine. Hello, Mr. Halperin. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. You asked a question earlier. Must start his own political party now, and the reason
I said effective.
An effective political party. That specifically, yes. No, he cannot start an effective political party because too many people have problems with him. And I think it's because it's been more like part of it is there's a lot more distrust of the wealthy, not more since the Gilded Age, and also because there's been a lot of negative press coverage as well. I think actually it's a combination of the two. I would say that the press coverage is detrimental to him, that has now put him, elevated him to the top of the list of those people. I think that I would not like to live in a democratic socialist country. Not to say that I'm not progressive on, I want to say not progressive. How would I say? I'm not really progressive at all. I guess I think I don't wish to live in a democratic socialist country. I know that. I'm not opposed to free market solutions as well. I do think we have to have some free market solutions. I think the problem is that there's a lot of misdirect. I think the anger towards the very wealthy is very misdirected. Considering the aftermath. I don't know Citizens United. Not to say that decision specifically, but now we don't have term limits. We don't have that's number one, and we don't have ranked choice voting, and a lot of that is causing a lot of corruption in the political system, or that wouldn't otherwise be tolerated by people.
All right, Lance, hold on one second. Lance, you've raised a ton of stuff. I want to make sure Dan and Sean get a chance to respond because you raised a bunch of stuff. So Dan.
But can I say this one point? Lobbying benefits the political class. So the relationships that politicians have with lobbyists benefits the politicians more than the lobbyists themselves. So if there should be any anger, it should be directed at the politicians, but people are trying to say, well, it's the other side, it's the other side.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's it's both sides' fault, and there has to be reform in some way, shape, or form.
All right, you raised a ton. Dan, pick up on some of what.
Yeah, I think the question is what's the platform of this third party, right? We don't really know right now what it is that they would espouse. Two, where does he start? I mean, he's not going to go fund a party that's going to win 270 electoral votes in 4 years, I don't believe. The question is, does he pick a handful of districts and attempt to go in? Now, are they really red districts where he says, hey, you were going to be for smaller government and less spending, and you went kind of Washington and voted with the party, even though it's against your principles? So for him, I'm going to make this up. Victory is winning 3 seats. I don't know what it is that they're truly trying to accomplish and what his message is. As far as being rich, I hear you, but Trump is rich. I don't necessarily, it's kind of, it is rich that Trump is now accusing him of having conflicts of interest. We'll see. Musk has a lot of meat to put on the bone.
Yeah, Sean.
All right. So number one, starting a political party is one thing. You can get ballot access if you have enough money, blah, blah, blah. Then you got to get people.
Yeah.
And to Dan's point, what do these people believe? What are you asking them to run on? Is it is it, smaller government? Is it
restraining the growth of Social Security for one?
Right. I mean, I mean, look, and those are called mostly Republicans or, so I have a hard time believing that people are willing to put their name on the line for this. I'm sure you can find a body, but then you have to have to, you win. And, Musk is at least saying, well, I want to get like 15 Republicans and then be the key swing. And it's just, in theory, it's a great exercise for a seminar at some political science conference, at a conference or in a classroom. It's not going to happen. Okay, hold on, Lance. Full stop. Secondly, look, I believe I would like to see the intent of the framers was never to have professional politicians. That being said, in the same way that I don't like flag burning and I abhor it, but I actually defend it because it's the beauty of our thing. I think term limits and ranked choice voting are cop-outs. To me, we have term limits and we get to do them every 2 years. This is when people go, gosh, I just don't want to vote. I mean, if you really care about this, then start a movement. Look at the leaders. Eric Cantor was toppled, the majority leader, very strong political operation because of an uprising in Virginia. People lose all the time. The former chairman of the Ways and Means Committee has lost a race. The Speaker of the House lost a race out in Washington back. It happens. To me, when we talk about term limits and ranked choice voting, it's a cop-out for people who don't want to actually do the work to get it done. Not you. I'm just saying that, I hear people say, well, that's the answer because, and it's the same thing with lobbyists and all this stuff. Again, I don't like PAC money. I hate it. I think that it's corruptible, but it's always an excuse as to why, if we can't do it. So let's create a law to fix something that we could have done ourselves.
All right, Lance, real quick, because we got to move.
Amen.
Okay, our founding fathers believed in checks and balances, and they also didn't think that they gave us democracy, but they also gave us Republican institutions and the rule of law, because they realized that rule of the majority, the people didn't do always what was in their best interest, and sometimes they had a tendency to vote too much in the short term as well. And also, I think one thing that could help is geographic committees being geographic representation in committee instances instead of them being assigned based upon political parties. And I'm not a progressive because they alienate me, because of their entitlement, and I think there's some things that have to be conditional, and they always wish to centralize stuff.
Well, Lance, I will say committee assignments are geographic. The leadership is very cognizant on each committee of making sure that each region and states are represented. So there actually is a lot of thought put into that.
All right. Thank you, Lance. Sean, what do you have tonight?
Well, two things. We'll follow up a lot of what we talked about tonight with Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri. And then to better educate myself on New York, the Republican candidate for mayor, Curtis Sliwa.
Oh, my former neighbor. All right.
Is he your neighbor, Dan? I'll have him come say hi.
He used to live down the street. Yeah, he doesn't know me, but.
So, I want to hear his side of this. Why shouldn't the Trump team get behind Eric Adams? I get it. But so I'm looking forward to that.
All right. A few announcements. This show is off starting tomorrow for the rest of July. We'll be back. Just kidding. We're back. Just to check. We're back. So we'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Meghan McCain, we'll see you at noon with Rachel Bate of the Politico, talking about everything going on in everything. Rachel is a great guest and Meghan is a great host. So please watch that at noon Eastern. Tonight at 6 o'clock, I'll be back for two-way tonight with all the day's news, including what's going on inside the White House with Kristen Davidson, Democratic strategist, and Steve Almendorf, a Democrat. And then want to tell you about one more thing. Tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern Time, Cancer Decoded is back. Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong and I will host Callie Means, the special government employee advisor to RFKJ, and a man with a compelling story to tell about cancer. So please join us tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern Time for that. Thank you all for returning with us. And as I said, we are back. So we'll see you in 23 hours. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.